Hi, I'm MC Keegan-Ayer from the Frederick County Council of Frederick County, Maryland. I'd like to welcome you to the Maryland Association of Counties Conduit Street Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews and discussions with state and county leaders on the issues and policies that affect us all.
Welcome to the Conduit Street Podcast. I'm Shantelle Malcolm-Lym, and I'm here with Michael Sanderson to give you a special episode.
Thanks, Shantelle. I think this was a pretty good week for us in Annapolis. We got a lot of our county folks at the table to talk about one of our top issues, and we just had our public hearing on highway user revenues. This is transportation money. It's one of our big topics, and we had the public hearing this week. Our first sort of rally around the flag moment for folks to talk about how important this is.
Right. And that's our share of transportation revenues for local roads and bridges. And of course, keeping them in good shape is a top priority for MACO this year. It's one of our legislative priorities. We've seen, considering the snow that we saw earlier this week and last week, this kind of thing is really important for counties. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely right. So at this hearing, we're going to run the audio of the public hearing as this episode of the podcast, but it's kind of a blend of all these points of view. You'll hear the bill's sponsor, Senator McCray. You'll hear the mayor and city council president from Baltimore. You'll hear the MACO president, MC Keegan-Ayer from Frederick County, and then like this whole wave of local officials from sort of every corner of the state talking about all these different complementary points of view. It's about road safety. It's about keeping up with proper management. It's about the fiscal effects and the way we have to backfill when the state doesn't step up. I thought the whole hearing was good and made a really strong case that our allies and friends in Annapolis need to keep this funding going. We can't fall off the cliff. So I thought it was a really good snippet, and I'm glad we're going to run it as a pod.
Yeah, I agree. It was a very good hearing, and we really wanted to bring it to you, our listeners. So here it is. Without further ado, Senate Bill 288 public hearing from February 3rd.
And now we begin, not the Truman Show, we bring the McCray Show. I'm going to go get some popcorn. Yeah. So you want to bring up your panel? Somehow I have 12 people signed up for this. I don't know how many are on your panel, Senator.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mr. Vice Chair, for the record, Corey McCray, Senator for the 45th Legislative District. HUR is not something that we're unfamiliar with, and we do have such a star-studded panel. But the main thing is just thinking about like the cliff in reference to HUR that could possibly happen, and how do we make sure that we have a placeholder to start to engage in that conversation. With me is Mako, with me is my council president, my mayor, and as you stated, there are a number of other folks that are coming to support this respective effort.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Good to see you all and good to be back in your committee again. As you know, I am Brandon Scott, the mayor of the great city of Baltimore, and I'm here to testify in support of SB 288. As you know, Baltimore is the only jurisdiction in Maryland that is responsible for maintaining all of its roads. That includes 2,000 miles of roadways, 1,400 traffic signals, 298 bridges, and 456 miles of alleys and major highways like I-83. And prior to 2010, we received roughly $200 million in HUR funding each year to manage this workload. With inflation, that would be around $300 million today. But as we know, HUR funding has not kept with the pace of inflation. In fact, the state reduced our share of HUR beginning in 2010. And while we understand very deeply the fiscal constraints of the time, we also see the damage. Studies show that the conditions of our roads cost Baltimore drivers nearly $3,000 per year. And I appreciate each and every one of you for that work to temporarily bring HUR shares back up to us for 12.2% for fiscal years 26 and 27. And as a result, we are finally starting to make progress on capital projects that are much needed. But as you heard from my Senate, beginning in fiscal year 2028, that is set to decrease once again. And quite frankly, we cannot let that happen. Because of the years of deferred maintenance, the need is greater now than ever. Yet, we're working with a smaller HUR budget than we had in 2009. This is not sustainable for the city of Baltimore or our county partners. We recognize the state transportation budget needs right now and the need for reform, but we cannot allow further cuts at the local level. Our residents will pay for it. And for these reasons, I request a favorable report on SB 288.
Chair Gazone, Vice Chair Rosapap, and honorable members of the Budget and Taxation Committee, thank you for having me today. For the record, I'm Zeke Cohen, City Council President for Baltimore City. Pleased to be with my Mayor and Senator McCray as well.
His favorite senator.
My favorite senator from the 45th District. That was the mayor's joke. I stole it. Last night, I stood on Lawyers Mall with students from Baltimore City to advocate for transit funding. These students wake up unthinkably early in the morning and still cannot rely on being on time to school. And while we must fund more for our MTA and the Be More Bus program, those buses need roads to run on. That's why I'm here today urging a favorable report on Senate Bill 288. Baltimore has gotten stuck with the short end of highway user revenue formula for too long, and yet our maintenance obligations are greater than those of any other jurisdiction in the state, particularly due to the responsibility Baltimore has for maintaining local stretches of I-83 and Maryland 295. But as soon as you pass into Baltimore County on either of these roads, maintenance is the state's responsibility. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. Baltimore needs to receive its fair share of HUR. Senate Bill 288 would ensure that by fiscal year 2031, Baltimore City would receive an additional $22.5 million in highway user revenue. At a time when our federal government is gambling with our shared investments, it is vital that state leaders do all they can to strengthen both state and local governments. Updating the highway user revenue formulas, local share will guarantee that Baltimore continues to thrive. And we all know that when Baltimore thrives, Maryland thrives. Baltimore's Department of Transportation already contends with the exacerbated costs of deferred and emergency maintenance as a result of years of disinvestment. We can't expect our city, the greatest economic hub in Maryland, to succeed further without receiving our fair share of HUR funding. Thank you for your consideration, and I urge a favorable vote.
Chairman Gazone, Vice Chair Rosa Pepe, and members of the committee, I'm MC Keegan-Ayer, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Maryland Association of Counties as their president. I'm here in support of this bill, SB 288, and the clarifying amendment. This bill will address the impending cliff that we are currently facing for highway user revenue. As you know, this revenue provides a predictable stream of funding for counties to help us address our road repairs. Local governments help more effectively maintain a safe and reliable road network. Right now, it also helps us plow our roads. And as you know, given the amount of snow and ice we've had, those calls are coming to us, and we are taking them hourly, if not more often. Local governments maintain more than 80% of the roads, and these funds allow us to provide basic projects such as road resurfacing and bridge repairs. They also help us address traffic improvements and safety improvements. For a county like Frederick County, which is where I represent, as fast as we're growing, we have a lot of improvements that we have to make to intersections that used to be perfectly fine are now no longer fine, and we have to put in roundabouts, traffic signals, and what have you. This money is spent to address road conditions that our shared constituents use, see, and experience every single day. They want the job just done. It doesn't matter whether it's a state funding or a local funding. They want to make sure that the roads are usable, passable, and in these cases, clear of snow and ice. Counties don't have the authority to raise dedicated transportation money, nor do we set local fuel taxes or vehicle registration fees. So this is how we pay to get the roads taken care of. MACO supports SB 288 and look forward to a favorable report. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and committee members, I'm Michael Sanderson with the Maryland Association of Counties. Other folks are going to talk about math, and I think the math is super compelling. It's in the fiscal note. You already know the story. You know the road miles. You know the dollars and cents. I want to offer just a little context. I was there when this happened. I've been here forever, seen how this went. You're in the middle of a BRFA discussion right now, right? We're in a pinch. The state's in trouble. You end up with a budget reconciliation process that's going to require, we're going to pause this formula. We're going to take a year off from doing this. We're going to make some nips and tucks to get through the tough times. But historically, you put things back. You make things right when times get better. This never got fixed. 2009 stunk. The banks were failing. The stock market is crashing. Unemployment's huge. Everybody's in line for Medicaid. Everybody's in line for unemployment. You ran out of cash. You needed to raid highway user money to make the budget work for a couple of years, but it never got put back properly. The counties are now sitting on 30 cents on the dollar of what was full funding. We've never gotten back. Baltimore City needs their full funding. The cities and towns need their full funding. The counties aren't even close to getting there. So the bill that's before you avoids a fiscal cliff, but please make no mistake, this story's not over. There's no state that does this. If you map the states for how do they take care of local roads, there's a gaggle of states where the state just runs everything. We'll fund it all, we'll pave them all, we'll maintain everything. There's some states that say we'll let the locals do their own gas tax or a surcharge on your license plate or whatever, and then they'll let the locals pay for it themselves with their own transportation revenues. And then most states do the old Maryland system, where centralized revenues distributed so the locals can take care of all the roads that they own and maintain. Maryland is now the asterisk, where like Hawaii, not pictured on the map, is this weird state Maryland that tells the county governments in particular, you have to maintain all these roads, and gives us a pittance in transportation revenues. Motorists believe they're paying for roads and bridges with their gas tax and with their car tax, and they're not. They're paying it in property taxes. If they knew that, they would hate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No questions for this panel. Okay, so I'm going to go to the couple people that we have online.
Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, my name is Joe Seamek. I'm Director of Public Works for Harford County. We strongly believe that Senate Bill 288 will help keep our county roads safe and effective for the public that lives, works, or travels in Harford County. Currently, Harford County receives approximately $5.5 million in highway user revenue. Those funds are used to construct local roadways and bridge projects, reduce the cost of repairs, and maintain safe and reliable roadways. Any loss of revenue will unquestionably result in more costly expenditures that our counties and our citizens must absorb. We take great pride in our commitment to traffic safety and longevity of service of all of our critical infrastructure, including our county road network. With that commitment comes a requirement to dedicate adequate resources to construct improvements to our roadways, bridges, storm drain inlets and pipeline systems, handicap ramps, and traffic control systems. A significant source of funding to these critical functions of our Department of Public Works was historically been highway user revenue. Although slowly rising in recent years, the total amount of HUR funding is still been only less than half of the amount committed back in 2009. This long period of underfunding has required Harford County to defer critical maintenance and repairs of our road infrastructure. For example, prior to 2009, we operated on a schedule of resurfacing our asphalt roadways every 15 to 20 years. That's a frequency to conform to national industry standard guidelines and focused on extending pavement life. The shortfall in HUR funding has required deferral of our maintenance efforts, causing our average resurfacing period to increase to over 30 years. We continue to experience further degradation of our aging road infrastructure, and the future costs for repair and maintenance will continue to escalate. We appreciate the intent of Senate Bill 288 to allow for distribution of additional funds to the county, and we consider it a positive step forward to improve the safety and reliability of our local roadway networks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Lenny Pfeiffer or Pfeiffer?
Pfeiffer, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here in support of Senate Bill 288. Thank you, Senator McCray, for putting this in. So I know everybody in the room knows exactly what happened with the Great Recession. We got hit pretty hard. Dorchester County was getting about $4 million at that time. We've just now got to about 25%. We just now busted over $1 million after 16 years. Back then we had to lay off like 20 people. Well, 20 people was half of our roads department. And to put it in text of the size of the county and everything, we've taken about $54 million in property and interest and income taxes. 27 million of that goes to the school system. So we have to run the rest of the county on $27 million. And as far as roads go, we have over 650 miles of roadway. And to keep up on those, for us to asphalt a mile of road is about $250,000 now. If we go and just tar and chip that, it's about $100,000 now. And it's extremely hard considering the cut that was taken and has not been come back up to where it was before the recession. And we have problems down here in Dorchester County. Saltwater intrusion. Our soil is so wet, it's always heaving the roads around here. And after that cut we took to the budget with the highway user funds being reduced, we are over 300 job work orders for roads, cross pipes, ditching. We're over 300 job work orders in the rears. And we're trying as hard as we can, but without the additional people that we used to have to take care of all these roads, it's just almost impossible for us to try to catch up. So these funds are just so vital to our county. I know they're vital to every county, but I just want to paint a small picture of what Dorchester County itself was going through. So with that in mind, I urge support for Senate Bill 288. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there she is. Okay. Who is that? The Sales. Councilman Sales.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So good afternoon, Chair Gazone, Vice Chair Rosa Pebb, and esteemed members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today. My name is Lori Ann Sales, at-large Montgomery County Council member and chair of our council's Health and Human Services Committee. I want to express my unequivocal support for Senator McCrae's bill, SB 288. Montgomery County and counties throughout Maryland must not bear the catastrophic burden of a highway user revenue funding cliff. The potential reduction and redirection of hundreds of millions of dollars to counties in the coming years would bring severe repercussions. The State Highway User Revenue Fund is the backbone of our Department of Transportation's operating budget, accounting for over 50% of our revenue. These funds are absolutely critical for essential road maintenance, ensuring that our residents can move safely and reliably. Every dollar allocated to repair potholes and maintain bridges allows us to direct our general funds towards other necessary day-to-day transportation projects that residents depend on, including street lighting, bridge inspections, sidewalk repairs, and traffic safety improvements to achieve our Vision Zero goals. Montgomery County is home to key transportation corridors such as the Capitol Beltway, I-270, I-95 interchanges. These highways are not just local routes. They serve travelers across the region and state. We must maintain them properly for the economic vitality of our entire state. If the funding cliff happens, counties will have no choice but to absorb these costs without the option to raise local transportation taxes. We're already facing significant pressure from the federal government as one of the jurisdictions most impacted by federal job cuts. Taking on long-standing state commitments is not a viable option for counties and threatens our financial stability. As an at-large council member representing Maryland's largest jurisdiction, I hear from residents and businesses every day about critical road safety and maintenance issues. Their frustration is palpable when they feel caught in the endless cycle between the local Department of Transportation and State Highway Administration, seeking solution for urgent roadway issues that threaten their safety. We cannot allow this failure to act erode public trust any further. We demand leadership and deserve stronger collaborations between state and local transportation officials, not more finger pointing or deflection. Senate Bill 288 is essential for ensuring stability and predictability in funding, allowing counties to address vital transportation needs without sacrificing other crucial services. For these compelling reasons, I urge a favorable vote on SB 288 without hesitation, and I thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you very much. Questions again for any of the virtual testifiers? All right, back to those who are here. You can just, whoever wants to start, just introduce yourself and roll along the panel.
All right, we'll go in order. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. I'm Martin Harris. I'm the Director of the Department of Public Works for Charles County. It's good to see you all. Strangely, again, on this very important subject for local governments. I'm not going to rehash a lot of what has been said before. I find myself in the position of actually echoing a lot of what Mike Sanderson said. But really, the key thing is, and this is why I'm in such a strong support for SB 88. This is really about restoring the partnership that's historically existed on highway user revenue and funding. A lot of my colleagues have already told some pretty, I think, striking stories about the cost and impacts of the cuts that we had back in 2009, which I was also here for in a different capacity, but certainly was here for as well. For Charles, getting really specific, we went from about $8 million in funding for HUR down to about $437,000 in funding. That's a 95% cut. Today, we are actually only still less than halfway back. But in those intervening 17 years, we've gone from about 1,500 miles of roads to just slightly under 2,000 miles or so in roads. So while the funding is less than half, we've increased in size by 20%. And those roads are now 17 years older, which require a lot more maintenance and a lot more care and feeding, as we're seeing now through the snow issue. So the struggle is very real. And as has been mentioned by my other colleagues, we don't have the tools to be able to address that the state has. However, for me personally, I'd like to see us get back to the long-term historic funding model that was in place by formula, which got us to 30 or 40%. But what we have here today with SB 280 is a wonderful, wonderful first step in that direction to provide assurances that not only are we looking at short-term budget relief to provide the funding that we need, but we are really getting back to restoring that long-standing collaboration and partnership between states and the counties and local governments. And so with that, I am here to give my strong and enthusiastic support to Senate Bill 288 and hope you would issue it a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Lauren Buckler. I'm the Director of Public Works and Transportation for Baltimore County. You heard a lot of things. You heard a lot of numbers. Baltimore County has similar numbers. But at the end of the day, every single citizen in Maryland uses these roads. Even if they don't drive, they walk. They get on transit. They have to use these roads to get to those things. Every single voter uses these roads. Baltimore County has a $400 million deficit in roads. We also, if you look at the funding that we should have had it stayed its course since 2009, have a $454 million amount that would have come to Baltimore County. Surprise. That's without adding inflation in. Those numbers are exactly equal to where our deficit is in roads. Since Monday, DPWT for Baltimore County has taken 3,600 calls about plowing. 3,600 voters called us about their roads since Monday. Next week, it's going to be calls on potholes from 3,600 residents or more about the roads that they have to drive on. So I thank you, Senator McCray, for this bill to stop us from this fiscal cliff and help the counties at least chug along with where we're at. I second what you've heard from the other counties and the city on restoring funding or looking at solutions here as to how we deal with these backlogs for these roads that every citizen in Baltimore and Baltimore County and Maryland uses. I urge a favorable vote on this bill and happy to take any questions that you have.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Todd Mon, a professional engineer in the state of Maryland. I'm the county administrator for Queen Anne's County. I'm here on behalf of the Queen Anne's County Commissioners in support of Senate Bill 288, which maintains a stable and predictable highway user revenue disbursement for all Maryland counties for essential road and bridge maintenance. And simply, we need quality roads and bridges because we all use them, as mentioned, to and from work, to get our kids to school, economic development, and obviously for emergency services. But what does it take? We have to have dedicated and consistent maintenance, and we have to have a reliable funding source to maintain our roads. So that is why the trust fund was created in 1968, and that became the revenue source for road maintenance and improvements for both state and local roads in Maryland. And this model worked very well for over 3 decades. And I've been around for 3 decades in Queen Anne's County, many of those years in our roads department at our public works agency. And I'll submit to you that this really started back in 2003 when highway user revenues were cut over $245 million statewide. Locally in my county, that cut was almost $4 million. And that really hurt. It hurt. I was over here in Annapolis back in those days, and they told us, hey, this is just a loan. We're going to pay this all back. We're going to make it right. That never happened. We never got paid back. Obviously, HURs did bounce back for a few years, and then in 2010, highway user revenues were forecasted to decline down to the economic crisis in the state. The General Assembly cut HUR and again reduced the local share down, strike 2. Lastly, the Board of Public Works cut the remaining local allocations of HUR that year by 90%. So for us in my county at that time, that brought us our allocation that year to a mere $260,000, was just enough money to pay our roads division staff 2 weeks for their time on the job. So we were out of money. That was strike 3. So what happened in Queen Anne's County at that time? We had to reduce force like you've heard others. We have a continued huge backlog of deferred maintenance. We had to downsize the entire county government at that time. 16 years later, we're still not 100% recovered. So we do support, we're on the right track. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Justin Fiore here on behalf of the Maryland Municipal League in strong support of Senate Bill 288. I want to thank the sponsor, Senator Corey McCray, for being a champion of this issue and say, me too.
Thank you. David Dupay, private citizen, representing no one. No, but although for full disclosure, I do work in county government, but I'm not representing my employer today. There's a couple of, I'm testifying in support of Senate Bill 288 with a couple of suggested amendments, recognizing, however, that no one listened to me for 30 years at DLS. So what else is new? Couple of new points, though, I'd like to raise that no one has touched on. One is the complication of the GMVRA, the gasoline and motor vehicle revenue account that's used to distribute the money. And the Department of Transportation keeps a certain portion. And then there's a certain number of revenues that go into the gasoline and motor vehicle revenue account, the GMVRA. That is then portions that are then again retained by the TTF 100%, and then it's split 80-20, at least in the current year, between the trust fund and the local jurisdictions. So the nuance there that I'd like to raise is that the last 3 major transportation revenue increases in 2013, 2024, and 2025, nearly all, if not all, of the revenue was dedicated 100% to the Transportation Trust Fund. So even though local jurisdictions were getting 1% of the GMVRA, they did not get any benefit of the revenue increases. So they were completely bypassed. So I'd like to suggest that the formula can be simplified. Since 2018, it's been a capital grant. It's not the money in the GMVRA anymore. It's a capital grant that's equal to the amount after you go through all the machinations and calculations. You can simplify it by taking the gross motor fuel and gross titling tax revenue and multiplying that by 17%. That gives you about the same amount as the current formula, which would be about $437 million, give or take. And then my second point that I'd like to make is that I think that what's the right percentage that should go to the local governments? If you look at the SHA 2024 mileage report, the vehicle miles traveled on local roads was 28%. So I think 28% at least is a logical number to try to land on. And so what my suggestion would be is to change the formula to be 17% of the motor fuel and titling tax, and then phase that in over multiple years to get to 28%. It would make it more palatable to MDOT, and you could achieve the same goals of restoring the money for local jurisdictions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Odette Ramos. I'm the councilwoman for the 14th District in Baltimore City. Thank you all for what you do, and thank you to my senator. Just wanted to echo my mayor, my council president, as well as all of our colleagues here, how important this funding is. We've talked about the numbers, but I'll tell you, I think, the most traffic calming requests in my district, and the traffic calming requests would be not able to be fulfilled if we don't have this money to do the HUR money for all of the other things that we need. Otherwise, we have to backfill those dollars. So as you know, roads, bridges, traffic calming, speed bumps, these are things that our residents see, feel, and touch. And, that is really the mark of local government. And we need your help to be able to get it right and do what we need to do for our residents. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for this last group? Very good. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 288.
All right, folks, thanks for listening in. We're going to wrap it up right there. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're going to be talking about highway user revenue a lot for the next coming weeks. We have a whole campaign running on social media, so join the conversation there on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And of course, give this episode a 5-star rating because I know you want to. So that's it, folks. Signing off, I'm Shantelle Malcolm-Lym, your producer. And of course, you heard from Michael Sanderson a little bit earlier. Thanks for listening to the Conduit Street Podcast.